Welcome to Pario magazine, where I chat with individuals who have a desire to create. Today, I'm joined by an indie pop artist from Melbourne who is about to release her new album, Hiraeth. Welcome to Pario magazine, Georgia Fields.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. So we're here today to chat about your third studio album, Hiraeth. Before we dive into that, though, do you want to give our audience a brief little introduction as to who Georgia is outside of the music studio?
Oh, great question. I would like to know myself. Who am I? Well, my name's Georgia Fields. I'm a musician. I'm a mum of two. I'd say that I'm a creative person. All my favorite hobbies involve making things, whether it's, you know, cooking or sewing. I don't sound like a very interesting person with that introduction,
No,
but there you go. That's me.
being a mum, I think, is busy enough, let
True,
alone putting all those other things in there as well.
true that. Yeah.
In terms of the passion for music, how did you first find this love?
I grew up in a musical family, so my parents met in a band long before I was on the scene. But that band had some success in the 70s. It's called the Ferrets, and they toured with Blondie, and I think they might have even played with AC/DC. So I kind of grew up seeing that as a possibility. And I grew up with a family that sang together at Christmas, and music was just a part of the way that we connected with each other. So it was something that just was a normal backdrop to life. Writing songs about your experiences and turning to music in times of sadness or happiness was just sort of something natural that we did. So that was always part of the backdrop of life for me.
Okay. And as a mum now, are those sort of similar traditions being passed down to your kids?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So I've got an 8-year-old, almost 8-year-old daughter and a 3.5-year-old son. Um, and it's really lovely to see them finding music and exploring it in their own way. My daughter writes little songs about her life and her experiences, and my son, my mum actually bought my son a real snare drum, which is intense.
It's great, but also bad.
Well, I mean, it's a beautiful snare drum, but it's it's very loud, which makes him very happy. So we get to play that a bit together too, which is fun. Yeah.
Okay. Future stars on the rise.
Future artists. Yeah.
So in terms of the musical influences, were your family sort of the earliest influences, and then how have those influences changed over the years?
Yeah, my musical diet growing up was quite broad, actually. So my mum was really into more of the pop side of things. So, Madonna, Motown, Beatles, and my dad was more into still into things like Stax, Motown, soul, also into country and Tom Waits and singer-songwriters. So I feel like what I grew up on was really songs and pop music and pop craft across a range of genres, which I think has really influenced my eclectic taste. Yeah.
And then for your new album, how have those influences woven their way into this music, and what is the sort of backstory behind this album and even its title?
So the title Hiraeth is a Welsh word, and hats off. I think you're saying it right. I know it's a daunting, and I'm a bit of a marketing genius in naming my album after an untranslatable, unpronounceable word. But it's a Welsh word which is understood to mean it doesn't have a direct translation to any other language, but it's understood to mean a profound longing for a home that you can't return to anymore because that home doesn't exist anymore. So it's linked with a nostalgia or a grief for the lost places of your past, whether they are physical places or a place in time or a memory or even a person that you've lost. And I discovered that word early on in the writing process when my children were quite young, and I was making that transition from being a woman of her own to being, responsible for one at the time, eventually two human beings, and how that new sense of responsibility, a new chapter of my life, which is beautiful, and I'm so glad to be in it, also comes with a little bit of grief and, I guess, reconciling the old part of my life that I will never get back again. So that word Hiraeth really struck me then, but it's also come to mean a lot to me in terms of even the pandemic. Our pre-pandemic life is a place that we just can't ever get back to again. And there's just so many different ways to interpret that word. So it's that sense of longing is, I guess, a theme that ties together the songs on the record.
Okay, so you mentioned sort of finding that during the writing. You obviously had this direction in mind for the music before you found the title.
It sort of it came together slowly. I didn't think of the title first, but the word really inspired me. And then as I went through and continued writing, there was a point where I was like, I feel like I want to call the album this, because I feel like this sums up all the different perspectives of longing within each song. So it was kind of a slow development, I guess. It wasn't like, I'm going to call my album Hiraeth and write all these songs about longing. It was more a natural progression.
Okay. And ahead of the release of the full album, you've trickled out 5 singles as little tasters. Why have you chosen to go down that route rather than the sort of what we've seen recently with big album drops out of the blue?
Well, one is that I am an indie artist, so I'm self-managed, and I've recently brought on a booking agent who's wonderful. But aside from my booking agent, it's really just me doing all of the things. And so I don't have a massive audience like a Beyonce or even some of the sort of household names in Australia. So by choosing to put songs out one at a time, I thought it would be a strategy to kind of build my audience towards the record. And also my last record was in 2016. So again, being an independent artist, I fund it all myself. I'm writing it, I'm arranging it, I'm working out who my collaborators are. So albums just take a bit more time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought by releasing songs one at a time, that would give me the chance to spread out the impact of the album and hopefully connect with more people. Also, when I released the first single of the album, Find Your Way Back, I hadn't received any grant funding at that point. So that was really a trapeze artist into the unknown moment where I knew I was going to make a record. I knew this was going to be a single on it, but I didn't know how I was going to make it. And I included that single on the grant funding application. And so from that point, the album timeline was a little more solid.
Okay. And I guess by going down this path as well, it also gives each individual song its own moment to sort of shine and breathe in the spotlight.
Yeah, it's been really fun to focus on the mood and the aesthetic of each song as it comes out too, and knowing that once the songs are out, they're in the world, and there's no lead. Then it will be, once all the songs are out, it'll be sharing them with the world and then on to the next project. So it does, by sharing them one at a time, it does give me the chance to extend all the fun part of making an album, which is sharing it with people.
Yep. And do these 5 singles give a good sense for the album as a whole?
Yeah, I picked songs that would kind of balance each other and show the scope, I guess, of the materials. So the first single, Find Your Way Back, is more poppy. And then you've got more art pop ballads like Holding My Hands Out and In My Blood. And Persuasion is a bit more of an indie rock, indie pop band sound. Same with Tigress, which is a sort of a straight up love song as well. So yeah, I feel like they encompass the essence of the album.
Perfect. And to celebrate the album, you're hitting the road later this month. How are you feeling ahead of the tour?
Really excited and nervous, but thrilled to be playing again. I love making records, and I was going to say, and performing is such an important part of my creative practice. I really noticed that when we were in lockdown, and we weren't able to get together with people in a room all together live. So I'm really looking forward to that and getting back to some places that I haven't been to in a few years, like Brisbane. I haven't played Brisbane in a few years, since well before the pandemic, and Sydney as well. And I'm playing a few new venues in Adelaide. So yeah, it's going to be really good.
Okay. And most notably for our audience, you're performing at the Lazy Bones in Sydney on November 24th. What can people expect from that show? Is it focused purely on this album?
Yeah, I'll be playing mostly songs from the new album, a couple of reimagined favorites from previous releases. I'm playing solo for this one, so I'll have my loop pedal and my vocal effects pedal. I've been working up some solo versions of the album songs and of the singles, which I'm really looking forward to sharing. And the support for this show is Lisa Caruso, who is a singer-songwriter I just love and adore. So I'm really looking forward to having her on the bill too, and making some magic together.
Okay, brilliant. And another important thing for you as a person as well, I think, is this idea of motherhood. And since becoming a mother, you've embarked on a little side journey as well, creating the Mother Lode online community. Why have you chosen to go down that path?
That kind of came to a head in the pandemic, actually. It had been on my mind for a while, and I'd been thinking, oh, it'd be cool to do something like a podcast or a blog or something. And then with all the lockdowns, and we experienced quite a lot of those in Melbourne as well, particularly. And you saw a lot of women leaving the workforce to homeschool their children. Um, for many reasons. A lot of those are systematic, but women tending to work in more part-time jobs and lesser paid than their male partnered counterparts. So we saw a lot of women leaving the workforce. And then, of course, we saw a lot of artists leaving the workforce and struggling, and performing artists. So I guess the Venn diagram of, women in the music industry, and particularly mothers, facing pretty unique challenges. I wanted to connect us together, and sort of democratize the ideas, the resources, the tips, the strategies, the emotional support that we would naturally share with each other in green rooms when we're on, playing shows together. Oh, so you've got small kids, oh, how did you did you ask for a breastfeeding room when you were at the festival, or did you put childcare on the grant application? And all these questions that we ask each other, I thought, how can we make that information accessible on a broader scale? So that's what Mother Lode's about. It's sort of about practical resources and also creating a space for emotional support within the music industry for working mothers. I haven't been able to create as much new content for it this year because I've been putting my record out and I'm feeling the guilt about it. But I'm looking forward to returning to that in a stronger capacity once the record's out next year too.
Yeah, I love the idea behind this group of just women sharing their ideas and helping each other in a different way.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been really beautiful to see, and also to see the musician mothers connecting on the platform and, you know, going on to do shows together and things where they might not have met otherwise. It's been really fulfilling for me. So yeah, looking forward to doing more of that in the new year.
And what is the ultimate vision with Mother Lode? Is it just to continue as this kind of support group, or do you think it could transform into, say, a record label for mothers and or a concert and festival type event?
I have thought about doing a label. It would be really awesome to be able to offer that support, particularly because musicians who are mothers or primary carers have a very different way of working. And so it would be great to offer a label that supports and understands the work-life balance, the juggle, and be able to support mums to release music their way in an emotionally sustainable way. I'd also love, in a dream world, for Mother Lode to grow and be able to, I guess, help inform changes to the industry in a more broader way. So allowing it to be more accessible for parents, for carers, for people who are breast or chest feeding. Yeah, just sort of being able to, what's the word I'm looking for? Not activism, but I guess promote the better accessibility for parents in the industry. That would be brilliant. But I
Yep.
think, yeah, got to grow it a little more.
Yeah, I was
From
thinking like also maybe like a small like concert series or festival where it's all mothers performing. I think that could be a great idea as well.
Yeah, and we did one Q&A, and I'd love to do some more of those next year, where we had some performances and also just a space for the audience to ask questions and to just sort of share topics that are, are burning questions for them and issues for them. So that could be cool too. But yeah, watch this space.
Alrighty. So finally, where is the best place for people to support you and track this creative journey moving forward ahead of the release?
My website's probably the most central place. That's georgiafields.com. I'm also on Instagram. My handle is at georgiafieldsmusic. And Mother Lode is on Instagram at Find the Mother Lode, spelt Lode. And the Mother Lode website is findthemotherlode.com.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me, and good luck with the release, the tour, and the growth of Mother Lode.
Thanks, Jamie.